Thanks for coming, Mo. We're honored.
Thank you so much. It's a wonderful opportunity. I'm very grateful that I have the chance to speak to you. I'm replacing Shelley Lewis, who's also an incredible speaker. So I'm hoping that she is going to be joining you for a future speech or talk. If that happens, don't miss it. But I'll use the chance and actually have the pleasure of sharing with you some of what I wish I had known when I was a teen. Even though I instinctively knew it, as Marcelo said, I had a fair share of success on the professional side. So I worked at IBM and Microsoft and Google, spent 12 years at Google. At the beginning, I was the vice president of emerging markets. So I opened half of Google's offices worldwide. And then I became the chief business officer of Google X, spent 5 years doing that. And in professional success scale, I think chief business officer of Google X is quite high. Like it's as high as, much higher than my dreams, I would definitely say when I was young. But that actually is not the highlight of my life at all. As a matter of fact, while I was at Google X, sadly, I lost my wonderful child, who was 21 and a half at the time. And that triggered me to document what I learned from him, to write a book that was called Solve for Happy. And Solve for Happy was everything I learned about happiness was something I discussed with my wonderful son, Ali. And Ali, a couple of weeks before he died, sadly, due to medical error. So it was a very simple surgical operation. He told his sister that he had a dream to be everywhere and part of everyone. And for some reason, after his death, when the sister told me of that dream, I felt in my heart that he meant share what I taught you so that I can become part of everyone. And so I wrote the book. It became an international bestseller. And accordingly, I had an ambition at the beginning to share his message with 10 million people very, very quickly. Within 8 weeks, we were at 13 million people that were reached and that took action. And so we expanded the mission to what is known as 1 billion happy. So a big part of my life now is around spreading happiness to 1 billion people, even though most of my career, my professional career, has been in technology and in business. And as an entrepreneur, I co-founded 25 companies and so on and so forth. So I chose to talk to you today about the link between happiness and success, because I think that's actually quite an important topic to think about when you're plotting your plans for the future. So it hit me very, very strongly last year when I was speaking at a school in the Netherlands, Hageveld, which is, one of those schools for very, very talented students. And I spoke about the topic of happiness. And at the end of my talk, a young gentleman came to me. He looked brilliant in every way, the questions that he asked. And he said, I was shocked by what you told me. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you're saying that I have the right to be happy. And in reality, no one else has ever told me that. They always told me that I should be focusing on scoring an A in school, that I should be focusing on my future, that I should be successful. And happiness was never a topic that I was asked to put my skills and smarts behind, even though if you tell me that it's a topic that I should work on, I'll probably achieve reasonably well in it too, which was quite eye-opening, because I will tell you openly, I think one of the most misleading questions you get asked as a young person is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And what do you want to be when you grow up is misleading, because most of the time, Marcelo actually was telling me in our brief chat before this that his daughter started with, I want to be I want to work at a flower shop, and then I want to be a nurse, and then I want to be a doctor, and then no, hold on, I want to be, I'm interested in particle physics, right? And yes, that's normally the way we answer. And I've actually asked that question to tens of thousands of people, young and old. I think I chose to ask Stanford University graduate students. So these are the people that finished university, worked for a few years, and came back to study, say, a Master's of Business Administration. And I told them, what do you want to be in 5 years' time? It was 120 students in the class, and everyone came back with something. Someone said, I want to be a space entrepreneur. Another one said, I want to be a CEO of whatever, and so on. And not a single person ever said, I want to be happy, which is quite eye-opening, honestly. Because, and if you ask any child, what do you want to be when you grow up? No child will ever tell you, oh, I want to be happy. But isn't that almost intuitive? Isn't that supposed to be the answer? Isn't becoming someone in a flower shop or becoming a space entrepreneur, isn't that supposed to be partially, at least, to make you happy? I mean, what is the point? What is the point? And I do something that I call the swap test. You know, if I walked to you and I asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you said, I want to be a doctor. Okay. I'll give you a swap test and tell you, okay, would you prefer to be a doctor and very unhappy, or would you prefer to be happy and not a doctor? Okay. And I can guarantee you that 99% of everyone you will ask that question will say, no, hold on, I want to be happy and not necessarily the other thing that I thought I wanted. And that's where the problems start. And believe it or not, we have a problem. You know, remember the movie Houston, we have a problem. We have a problem. We have a problem because even though technology and standards of living have been really at an all-time high in our modern society, our happiness has never been less. So suicide rates at an all-time high, teen suicide is at an all-time high, depression is at an all-time high, teen depression is at an all-time high, female depression is at an all-time high, female suicide is at an all-time high. We have a problem. We have a problem. Life is giving us more and more, and yet we're unhappy, right? And the reason we're unhappy, if you ask me, the number one reason for our unhappiness is we don't set out in life to achieve happiness. We set out in life to achieve success, okay? And so when I was a child, my mom told me that, look, you're going to have to work hard for a few years. You're going to have to save money. It's not going to be easy. And then eventually, after a few years, you're going to achieve success. And when you achieve success, everything will become easy and you'll be happy. And I remember I became incredibly successful. By age 29, I was living in a 4-bedroom villa with 2 luxury cars, a swimming pool, and I had everything that you can, that we strive a lifetime to achieve. And I was miserable. Absolutely depressed. And so I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I fulfilled my side of the problem, right? Of the equation. As an engineer, we call it a problem. I fulfilled my side of the equation. I worked hard, I saved, and I succeeded, but I'm not happy. And ask yourself, is that true? Is the promise that they gave you true? So people will tell you that hard work will lead to success and success will lead to happiness. The first part of the equation is correct because hard work does lead to success. But how often do you see people who are wealthy, famous, swimming in money, singing on stages and committing suicide, right? The truth is success does not always lead to happiness, and that's where we fail. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Because if you don't set yourself a specific target, you're never going to achieve it. If you head out in life to achieve something, you're more likely to achieve it, right? If you put your whole life out there behind, I want to be successful, you're more likely to achieve success. But if you achieve success without wanting to achieve happiness, you're not going to achieve happiness. And so when I speak publicly, one of the most frequently asked questions I get is from parents telling us, thank you so much for teaching us about happiness. How do we make our children happy? And I basically always say, well, if you tell your children that they need to grow up to be successful, and they do grow up to be successful, you have failed, right? If you also tell them to grow up to be happy, and they grow up to be happy but failures in life, you have also failed, okay? And that the very obvious but rarely ever discussed answer to the question, what do you want to be when you grow up, is, I want to be successful and happy, right? And once you start to see it that way, you start to do it the other way around, because believe it or not, success does not always lead to happiness, but happiness actually very often leads to success. So if you look at some of the most successful people in the world out there, these are people that have chosen careers or aspirations or a path in life that sometimes is not even careers at all, is not even related to money, right? And they chose the things that they love. They chose the things that make them happy. And when they chose those things that made them happy, they enjoyed doing them so much that they followed what Malcolm Gladwell famously named the 10,000 hours concept. So if you love something, because it makes you happy, you do so much of it that when you reach 10,000 hours of practice, you become one of the best in the world at it. And when you're one of the best in the world at anything, you're by definition going to be successful. So it's not that success not always leads to happiness, but happiness will, doing something that makes you happy will always lead you to success. Now, when I say that, people will say, but hold on, Mo, what do you mean? Success is something that is tangible. I can work on that. I can have steps and, things I can do to achieve success. Happiness is much more undefined, it's unachievable. It's, it comes and goes and it's not that predictable. And I go like, that's absolutely ridiculous, right? Happiness is just like fitness, okay? You don't practice it enough, so you don't achieve it. And some of us don't practice it at all. And so we become flimsy at it. We're unable to get anything done behind it. Happiness, in my view, is so predictable that it follows an equation. Maybe today is not the right time to talk about the details of how to become happy, but search for some of my videos on YouTube or social media, and it's very straightforward. Happiness is as predictable as a mathematical equation. The challenge is we actually don't work for it. So I'll give you an example. Now, most of you are teens now. You care about the way you look. You want to attract the other side of your life. And so you want to be fit, and you go and work out, and you go to the gym once a week, 3 to 4 times a week, and that makes you fit, right? Now, of course, if you research on the internet or go to a fitness trainer of some sort, they'll tell you, no, hold on, fitness is very complicated. You need to eat very specific food, and you need to work out in a very specific way, and you need to, have a personal trainer with you, and you have to pay them. And yeah, of course, they make it look difficult because it's their profession, right? But the truth is this: you want to be fit, make fitness your priority, which means if you're given a choice between being fit and eating a brownie, choose fitness, right? And go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. It's very simple. Or work out 3 to 4 times a week. It's really that simple. Huh? If you do those 2 things, you're going to be fitter. Similarly, happiness is make happiness your priority. So when you make choices that make you happy, right? More importantly, or at least in conjunction with choices that make you successful, and go to the happiness gym 3 to 4 times a week, right? And the happiness gym is available online. Watch a video, read a book, spend time chatting with happy people. Stop wasting your life on negative news and things that make you unhappy. Simple. It's really, really, really that simple, okay? And maybe that will not make you happy all the time, but it will make you happier, right? And happier is a step on the way, because just like fitness, The first time you go to the gym, it feels horrible. The second time, it feels even worse. And then the third time, it starts to become easy. Okay? So by doing that, by talking to you about this today, and I'm going to stop and we open for questions, I want you to do the advice that I tell all parents, because not all parents will allow you to, will tell you that, okay? Your success in life is not to achieve one thing, which is a career that the modern world convinces us is what matters, okay? Your success in life is to achieve a successful life that is impactful, that is in line with your passion, and be happy, okay? If you achieve one and not the other, you haven't lived a full life. The only way to live a full life is to live a life that enables you to be happy so that you can actually have an impact on the world. Because by definition, those who are happier are more fit and more able to make a difference to life. People who are happy are liked by others. They are more healthy. They are more engaged. They are more optimistic. And so they do things and they take risks and so on and so forth. Happiness is not a luxury, believe it or not. Happiness is the default setting, just like being healthy. When you're happy, you're at your optimum performance, okay? Just like when you catch the flu, you do something about it, right? You go like, sore throat, I need to take a vitamin or take care of myself. Similarly, when you're unhappy, you should do something about it, because being healthy is the default setting in which you are at your optimum performance. And similarly, when you're happy, you're in the optimum setting, the default setting at which you're in your top performance.
What exactly can you find on the Happiness Gym?
So there are several schools to happiness. Great question, by the way. There are several schools to happiness, and the challenge is you need to find out which school you belong to first. Okay, there are people that talk about happiness from a spiritual point of view. So a lot of people will talk about, say, Buddhism or Sufism or Islam or whatever as a way to find a path to happiness. There is a practice point of view. So some people will tell you, look, if you're looking for happiness, practice gratitude every evening. They won't tell you why or how the machine works. They'll just tell you, do those things and you'll be happier. Okay. There is a psychology point of view, which is split into two. One is normal psychology, which says happiness is the absence of unhappiness. There were reasons in your life, traumas that led you to be unhappy. If you find those traumas, you can remove them and be happy. The positive psychology side of things will say, hey, by the way, there are certain things that always induce happiness. So let's look at the people that found happiness in life and behave like them. And that's the psychology school. And then there is my school, which a few it's growing really, really fast, which basically says science and engineering and mathematics and logic actually can apply in a field such as happiness. So my approach is to say, you were born happy. Okay, that's actually true about every infant you've ever seen. If they're given their basic needs for survival, they're happy. And then you grow out of happiness because of a predictable equation that I call the happiness equation, right? And the reason that we find that we feel unhappy frequently is not because something is wrong with life, but rather it's because we solve that equation wrong. Right? It doesn't matter which school you belong to, and you might actually belong to multiple schools. So I come from the logic school, the science school, but also I like the spiritual school, right? And I find some happiness there, and I find some happiness in logic. What I would ask you to do is do a few things. One is explore with an open mind by listening to a variety of speakers. Right? You'll find some spiritual speakers, some psychologists, some scientists, and so on and so forth. And there are many of them on YouTube. And from those, let's say 80% at the beginning will not be to your liking. And that's fine. Okay? It's going to waste you a day or two or a week of your life. That's fine. But then you will start to recognize which school you belong to. Are you more interested in the logic of happiness? Are you more interested in the spirituality of happiness and so on? And I would then recommend that you invest in that. Okay, that's never going to take you all the way, but it's going to take you, say, 80% of the way. That's one thing. The other thing in the happiness gym is people who are happy. If you surround yourself with miserable people, by definition, you're going to be constantly hit with things that make you unhappy. Okay. And as teens, one of the challenges we face is that we really, really overvalue friendships. Okay. To the point, I mean, friendships are some of the best things in the world, but we've overvalued it to the point that sometimes we find it difficult to drop friends, even though they make us unhappy. Okay. So I will tell you openly, the number one reason you should keep someone in your life is either because they make you happy, not because they take you to parties and make you have fun. They make you happy, basically meaning they make you feel calm and content and peaceful around them, right? Or because they're teaching you something and making you a better person, right? If someone is not doing either of those and just making you miserable all the time, then smile at them and do like what my son taught me and say, you're a wonderful person, but I think we're so different that I'd rather spend my time with other friends. Okay. And believe it or not, even if you drop all of your friends today and start over, very quickly, if you start with people that are like you, that make you happy, you'll make more friends that will make you happier in the long term. Short, quick answer, but basically go out there and venture and look for what makes you happy, and you'll find out which school you belong to.
Okay, thank you.
So Mo, my question is, you said the way number 5 you said to achieve happiness is your way of mathematics, engineering, and science, and you mean by those 3 aspects, studying and understanding will lead you to happiness. That's what you meant.
Yes. So there is. So look, spirituality will say that happiness is found in an understanding of the reality of life, of the objective reality of life, of the oneness of all beings, and in behaving in an ethical way to everyone else. Okay, that's a spiritual view of happiness. I actually believe in that view. A logical view of happiness will say happiness follows a very, very, very predictable pattern. Okay, that pattern, in my view, is that you've never been happy because of a certain event in life. Every time in your life you've ever been unhappy, it was because the event of your life did not meet your expectations of how life should be. Okay, so rain never makes anyone happy or unhappy. Okay, rain will make you happy if you want to water your plants, and it will make you unhappy if you want to suntan, right? And so there is no inherent happiness in an event in life or unhappiness. There is a comparison that happens in your brain between that event and what you want life to be. Okay. And so because that event happens in your brain, because that comparison happens in your brain, it can actually be solved in your brain. Okay. So life can give you an event like losing a child, like me losing Ali. Okay. And the way I think about it, the way I analyze it, the way I see it comprehensively can allow me to take that event and see the pain in it, but also find reasons to be happy in it. Okay. And that surprisingly has nothing to do with what life gives me. So the real joy I have in life is because what can life do? If I'm trained to look at life in a logical way, that, by the way, translates back to spirituality, which is seeing the truth of life. Seeing the truth of life makes you happy. I actually, in my book, the very last sentence of the book is, happiness is found in the truth. Okay. The challenge with us seeing the truth is that our brains are trained to be negative. So we don't actually see an accurate view of the truth. So science and logic, using the scientific method, using mathematics, using logic, are a very good way to see the truth. Okay. And when you actually look at life as exactly as it is, when you set your expectations of life as realistically as they should be, interestingly, somehow the happiness equation is solved correctly. Somehow the events meets your expectations, because most of events in life are really not as bad as we make them look, right? And because, I mean, I use a very, very relevant example. If you were born in the year 1900, when you were 14, there was World War I. Then there was the Spanish flu when you were 20. Then there was the Great Depression when you were 37. Then there was World War II when you were 44. And all that they've asked us to do with COVID-19 is to stay home and sit on our sofas. And yet we look at that event and say, oh my God, that's a horrible event, right? In the reality of COVID-19 is that around 500,000 people died around the world. It's sad, of course, for 500,000 people to die. But in the last 6 months in which the pandemic happened, we as humanity lost 35 million people. This is the mortality rate of humanity. 73 million people die every year. This is known, right? Of which 500,000 died of COVID-19, and that's the truth. Right? Now, suddenly when you see the truth, you don't exaggerate those events anymore. They don't make you unhappy or scared or concerned as much as they would when you're not in control of your logic, mathematics, and science.
The first one should be quite easy for you. And it is, how can this community, which we hope to grow significantly over the next few months and years, help you make 1 billion people happier? So
that's the greatest question ever, Marcelo. Thank you for asking. Well, I will never reach 1 billion people. I'm saying this openly in front of everyone. It's my ambition, but you know, it took Jesus like 2,000 years to reach 1 billion people, right? So it's not something I'm capable of. The only way we can reach 1 billion people is if each of you reaches 25 people. Right? And the only way you can reach people, and maybe 200 people and maybe 2,000 people, right? The only way for anyone to be able to reach others and make them happy is to be happy yourself. Okay? So what I would ask you to do is please prioritize your happiness. Don't give up on success. Be successful, be powerful, be impactful in the world, but also invest in your happiness. And when you know something about happiness, share it with others. Okay? And my 1 billion happy mission is very straightforward. It's what I call a positive Ponzi scheme. Huh? Everyone tells 2 people who tell 2 people who tell 2 people. So if you tell 2 and they tell 2 and each of them tells 2, within 5 years, we are at 1 billion people. And really, this is what it's all about.
All right. Well, we'll make an effort to do our share. And second and final question is that what do you want to do when you grow up?
I'm very grown up already, Marcelo. I believe it or not, I am on a very interesting journey nowadays. It's COVID-19 and the lockdown has highlighted to me that I have over-invested on one path of my life and maybe under-invested in the other. And so I am in a significant need for a lot of silence and space, which surprisingly most spiritual figures in history have had, right? They've had sometimes months or sometimes years of silence, of reflection, okay? And so I hope to be able to get in touch with myself fully. I think I know myself reasonably well, but I think there is more to know. And the only way to get there would be to actually really, really meet me. That was actually, by the way, Shelley's topic. She was telling me.
Joining us next month, I'm hoping. So.
Yeah, how to meet yourself, how to really, really connect deeply with yourself.
Yeah, you want to reach inside to be able to play with your inner child, right? And then
oh man, I love that guy. Yeah.
Well, fantastic to have you here, and we're so
thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah.